I don't use the list on page 65 because I find that counting the difficult hills on good terrain unbalances the game. I use the list on page 96. Essential to me, command post and gyrocopter, for example. It also allows giving a morale boost to the entire army, which, combined with the status of auxiliary, corresponds more to my vision of dwarves than the ordinary heavy blades. Dwarves revere experience. The supreme command is entrusted to the oldest among the nobles. In battle, his ancient wisdom carries the decision, and the king himself respects the ancient tradition. This old dwarf, bearing the title of living ancestor, chooses an elevated point, sets himself there, and does not move, protected by the royal guard arranged in a circle around him. The command post rule is perfect for simulating this. La figurine ne peut entrer au contact, maneuver mal, dispose d'un rayon de commandement éloigné et refuse de reculer. King Gimler is a ruler of unyielding character and profound honor. A proud heir of an ancient lineage, he carries the weight of oaths and grudges recorded in the Book of Grudges. Stoic, patient, and unwaveringly loyal to his clan, he speaks little but acts with relentless determination. His wisdom is forged by centuries of traditions, and while he may seem gruff or stubborn, he proves to be a just leader, ready to defend his people and his kingdom. He is the guarantor before his people of the respect for ancient laws and the honor of his lineage. Afin d'être vous de l'ensemble de ses guerriers, il combat juché sur une litière portée par quatre robustes nobles. My dwarf Prince Borgsengrim is inspired by an illustration by John Blanche showing a dwarf king on a boar protected by Ruthiog, a mercenary ogre captain. The privilege of riding a boar is not common among dwarfs, but it reveals a mark of strength and authority and is exceptional in dwarf society. The prince element is therefore counted in blade, with the other troops of the unit fighting on foot. Prince Borgsengrim is one of the king's younger brothers. His military role is to ensure the security of passes and transit points in the mountains. It was during one of these operations that he met Ruthiog. Baldry, the master of runes, stands proudly on the Anvil of Destiny, a stone runic monument that rumbles with ancient power. His braided beard, adorned with gold rings engraved with ancient glyphs, sways under the bluish glow of the runes that light up with each of his movements. Draped in a battle-worn aurochs hide cloak, he grips a runic hammer in his hand, each strike resonating like contained thunder. Beneath his feet, the Anvil of Fate moves forward, pulled by a gigantic mountain bear, its fur as black as a chasm beneath the mountain. At the heart of the dwarven fortresses, beer is not just a drink. It is a symbol of memory, clan, and the sacred memories. Its ritualized consumption, passed down for centuries, is an act that connects the living to their ancestors and celebrates the endurance of the dwarven people in the face of trials. Ginnason, the warrior brewer, is a legendary figure as much for his brewing genius as for his fearlessness. Ginnason appears on the battlefield perched atop a massive oak barrel blackened with age, bound with bands of runic steel. The barrel is carried on a platform by 4 sturdy brewers, true tavern pillars turned champions. Each carries another keg on his back, sealed until the precise moment when the battle will call for a surge of liquid courage. The warriors of the army are above all craftsmen and merchants concerned with protecting their activities and property. The only professional warriors are those who guard the living ancestor, the king, and the prince. These warriors fight with firmness and determination. They are accustomed to fighting on steep slopes. Moving slowly and in tight ranks, they nevertheless lack the tactical agility of lighter troops. They go into battle murmuring their ancient chants such as, "Drunk on beer, mead, and joy, they went into battle, the heroes I celebrate." The unit is armed in a very disparate manner, each coming with their personal equipment. Axes sit alongside maces and shields. The defensive gear is of good quality and adorned with runes supposedly magical and protective. The search for death in battle not being in line with the values of these warrior artisans, the army does not include units of troll killers. However, it does happen that certain killers or adventurers are occasionally seen within combat units at the announcement of a confrontation. Whether they are artisans living deep within fortresses or traders making their way along mountain roads toward the human cities of Bretagne or the Empire, they all share the same unwavering resolve. On the steep slopes of the mountains where their fortresses stand, they fight with a confidence forged by centuries of habit. The rocks, the scree, the winding paths, everything that trips up other people's is merely familiar terrain to them. Their formations adapt naturally, tightening shields, angling spears, using gravity as an ally. The army is sometimes reinforced by dwarf merchants settled in the empire. These dwarves are often assigned to the service of the militias of the human cities where they live and receive more advanced military training, though strongly influenced by the organization of the empire's urban phalanxes. Combattant à la lance, nombre d'entre eux sont équipés de pistolets et un coup, qu'ils utilisent just avant le choc, à proximité de l'ennemi. When the dwarf territories of their ancestors are threatened, when the carracks are at risk of being destroyed, and when the ancestral tombs of their lineages face desecration and dishonor, entire units of these imperial dwarves make a long journey to fight alongside their dwarf brethren. The army consists of 4 solid units of dwarf crossbowmen. Their crossbows are adorned with magical runes that enhance their durability. The elders say that some of these weapons, still functional, are several centuries old. The runic magic also helps improve firing rate. The crossbowmen are thus classified as warbows, surpassing human crossbowmen in terms of shooting speed. Each dwarf of Carrack Gamot must complete several years of military service upon reaching adulthood. These years are nothing compared to a dwarf's lifespan and are not enough to make them true elite warriors. Beyond the use of the crossbow, these militia units stand out from other craftsmen and merchants due to their great discipline, the uniformity of their equipment, and their ability to maneuver in unison. Ils protègent généralement les remparts. The army includes 2 small regiments of warriors specialized in deep strikes behind enemy lines. Made up of sappers and miners, these units fight as skirmishers moving through the earth's depths, digging mines and tunnels to surprise the enemy with bold attacks. Benefiting from the sneakers rule, they prove to be a real threat to enemy characters, whom they can slaughter on a tied combat result. Their sapping work also allows them to ignore any enemy fortifications, even the walls of a city. The blows delivered by their picks and hatchets are particularly lethal and worsen combat outcomes. Particularly effective against infantry and a bit more challenged against mounted units, sappers are classified as swordsmen. In dwarf armies, skirmishers are a notable exception to the traditional, massive, and methodical style of combat. Made up of small groups of scouts, mountain hunters, and craftsmen accustomed to traveling the steep passes, these light fighters play a crucial role in controlling roads and strategic passages. Armed with arquebuses, heavy crossbows, or wheeling pistols, these units never seek direct confrontation. Their goal is vigilance, obstruction, and harassment. More mobile than the line warriors, although, for dwarves, that is relative. They advance in small squads scattered along the slopes, using the terrain to conceal their movements. 2 squadrons of gyrocopters fly over the army. The list used only allows them to be played as benevolent dragons, which allows their characteristics to be simulated very accurately. Being fairly fragile mechanical devices, their use requires a full check by the mechanics, and they sometimes cannot be activated at the beginning of the battle. The flamethrower mounted at the front of the machines gives them the ability to shoot at very close range. The large number of machines in the squadrons explains their high combat factor, which is still considerably lower than that of dragons. These squadrons provide some tactical flexibility to the army, but they remain very vulnerable to aerial troops, which are often more powerful or more numerous in other armies. The army's artillery is numerous and extremely effective. It is characterized by its stationary nature. The dwarves place their batteries and do not move them, contenting themselves with rotating them. They cannot move, but all 4 of a battery's edges count as front edge and so can shoot on any enemy at range ignoring shooting arcs. This artillery includes a wide variety of pieces: flame cannons that burn everything in front of them, rididequins capable of clearing an entire rank in a single volley, and gobbleober catapults that hurl chained goblin prisoners. In terms of gameplay, I chose for this army to strictly adhere to the selected list and not to use a variety of rules for this artillery. The undead rule accurately reflects the response of dwarf gunners in close combat and gives them high morale, the fear that dwarf artillery instills in enemy hearts. In terms of army theme, these characteristics are easily justified by the use of runes, giving the pieces real magical abilities. On the other hand, the possibility of raising the dead is ignored, both because it would not be logical and because the army does not have individuals capable of performing such resurrections. The Dwarf engineers developed a type of vehicle initially intended for combat in the wide tunnels of underground cities, blocking all space and crushing infiltrating enemies while delivering fierce axe blows. A small cannon at the front of these juggernauts fires bursts of small stones and metal projectiles at very short range, causing injuries and disorganization among enemy ranks without damaging the tunnels. Whenever possible, the king uses some of these juggernauts in surface battles. Their effectiveness then relies on their mechanical arms and the heavy axes they wield. The crew does not participate directly in combat. Their classification as behemoths rather than infernal machines can thus be explained. In the event of a large-scale invasion, the king raises the ban and the arriere ban. Sick, wounded, or frail dwarves then join the army, ready to show their courage. It would never occur to dwarf generals to lead their people into war without providing them with abundant rations of beer, mead, or other invigorating drinks. The smell of beef and leg of lamb characterizes the campfires. As the dwarf proverb says, "We are willing to die, but not of hunger."